Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the world of cybersecurity.
Oh,
Specifically, how AI is changing the way we have to think about cybersecurity.
yeah. It's a really interesting time to be in this field because everything's changing so rapidly.
Right. And we're going to be taking all of our information for this deep dive from an article called The New Security Trifecta: People, Process, and AI by Andrew Kagan.
Mm-hmm.
He's the CTO of Planet Technologies, and he published this article on LinkedIn back in May.
Okay.
And, when I read it, it really sparked some thoughts about what the future of cybersecurity is going to look like.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that he points out right at the beginning is that everybody wants these new cybersecurity tools.
Right.
But the problem is they're very complex and difficult for a lot of companies to actually use.
Yeah, it's like, if you've only ever driven a minivan and then somebody hands you the keys to a Formula One race car,
Right, exactly.
like, you're probably not going to do so well.
They're going to end up in a wall.
Yeah, are we setting ourselves up for failure by just focusing on the tools?
Well, I think we need to be careful to make sure that we have enough tools to meet our specific security needs.
Right.
But we don't want to overwhelm ourselves with too many tools or tools that are too complex.
So it's finding that balance.
Exactly.
Because if you have too many tools, you're not going to know how to use any of them.
Well, and on top of that, there's another problem that Kagan brings up in the article, which is that there's way more companies developing fintech solutions
Oh, really?
than cybersecurity solutions.
Okay.
Like 6 times more.
6 times. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, it is. And it kind of reminds me of that quote by Willie Sutton
Oh, yeah.
about why he robbed banks.
Because that's where the money is.
Exactly.
So is that kind of what we're seeing here? Like all the money and resources are going into fintech and...
It does seem that way, doesn't it? I
Hmm.
mean, when you consider the fact that cybercrime is a multi-trillion-dollar industry,
Right.
it's kind of alarming that there's such a big gap.
Yeah, we could end up in a situation where we're just constantly playing catch up.
Right. The bad guys are always one step ahead because they have more resources.
Exactly.
And they're able to develop their attacks faster than we can develop our defenses.
Yeah, and exploit these vulnerabilities before we can even patch them.
Exactly. And that's where I think AI has the potential to really change things.
Oh, okay, so how...
So Kagan argues that AI, and particularly large language models or LLMs,
Okay.
can make these complex security tools much easier to use.
Okay, so give me an example of how that might work.
Sure. So let's say your company uses a SIEM system
Okay.
to monitor security events.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these systems are very powerful, but they can be really hard to use.
Yeah, you have to know all this crazy code and stuff.
Exactly. You need to know these complex query languages to get any meaningful information out of them.
Right.
But with an LLM, you can just ask the SIEM system a question in plain English.
Oh, wow.
Like, show me all the login attempts from unfamiliar IP addresses in the last 24 hours. And the LLM will translate that request into the appropriate query and then pull the data.
Oh, wow. So it's like having a cybersecurity expert sitting right next to you.
Yeah, kind of like a virtual assistant
Wow.
that can help you understand what's going on in your network.
That's amazing.
And this isn't just limited to SIEM systems either.
Right.
LLMs can be used to make all sorts of security tools more accessible to people who don't have that specialized knowledge.
Yeah, because there's that huge skills gap that we're always hearing about.
Right.
I mean, there are over 3.5 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs globally.
Yeah, and 750,000 of those are right here in the U.S.
Yeah, so it's not just a numbers game either.
No, we're also lacking people with the right skills.
Yeah, particularly when it comes to things like cloud security and threat intelligence.
Right, and AI itself.
Yeah, so even if we could fill all those jobs, we might not have the right people to handle the threats that we're facing.
Exactly, and Kagan's argument is that we need to change our assumptions about cybersecurity. We can't just keep trying to build bigger and better walls to keep the bad guys out.
Right.
We need to be more proactive.
Okay.
We need to leverage AI to automate tasks, enhance our capabilities, and get ahead of the threats.
Like what kind of things are we talking about? Like autonomous system segmentation? Self-healing hardware and software?
Yeah, exactly. Those kinds of things.
That sounds like something out of a science fiction movie.
I know, but it's closer than you might think.
Really?
Imagine a system that can automatically isolate a compromised device as soon as it detects any malicious activity.
Oh, wow.
You could prevent the spread of malware before it even has a chance to do any damage.
That would be incredible.
Right. And with AI-powered self-healing systems,
Okay.
we could potentially automate the patching of vulnerabilities and the recovery from attacks.
So our systems would be more resilient
Okay.
and we'd have less downtime.
Right.
So it's like having an immune system
That's a great way to put it.
for our digital infrastructure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's constantly monitoring for threats and then automatically taking action to protect itself.
So how would this impact the role of humans in cybersecurity?
That's a common concern that a lot of people have.
Right, like, are we all going to be replaced by robots?
Right, but I don't think it's going to be like that.
Okay.
I think AI is going to augment our capabilities and allow us to focus on more strategic and analytical functions.
Okay.
Instead of spending all our time on these routine tasks.
Like analyzing logs and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So AI can do all that for us.
Right, and that frees up our time to focus on the things that machines still can't do.
Okay, so give me an example.
Well, for example, we're still much better than machines at understanding complex attack patterns.
Right.
We can anticipate new threats and make nuanced judgments about risk and response.
So we're still needed even in an AI-driven world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I think our role will become even more important.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
Because we'll need people who can understand how these AI systems work, identify any potential biases or limitations, and make sure that they're being used ethically and responsibly.
It sounds like the future of cybersecurity is going to require a whole new set of skills.
It will. And Kagan actually argues that the traditional people-process technology model needs to be adjusted to reflect this new reality.
How so?
Well, in the past, we've always put people at the center.
Right.
But Kagan suggests that for certain tasks, we need to get people out of the loop. And let the machines handle things at machine speed.
Oh, so it's not about getting rid of humans entirely. It's about using AI strategically for those tasks that are better suited for machines.
Right. And that will have a big impact on how we approach security. The skills we need to develop and the way we organize and manage our security teams.
But we also have to remember that AI can be used by the bad guys, too.
Oh, absolutely. That's a very important point.
How does that factor into all of this?
Well, attackers are already using AI to automate their attacks. You're developing more sophisticated malware. And creating very convincing phishing campaigns.
So it's kind of like an arms race.
In some ways, yes.
Both sides are using AI, trying to outsmart each other.
But the good news is that defenders have one big advantage.
What's that?
We understand our own systems and networks better than the attackers do. So we can use that knowledge, along with the power of AI, to create defenses that are more adaptable, resilient, and effective.
So it's not just about having the most powerful AI. It's about using it strategically and in conjunction with human expertise to create a more secure posture.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's just recap what we've talked about so far. We started by discussing the challenges of cybersecurity in the age of AI. We talked about the complexity of the tools, the growing skills gap, and the fact that AI can be used by both the attackers and the defenders.
And that's created this sort of arms race in cybersecurity.
Exactly. Then we discussed how AI can help us address some of these challenges by making tools easier to use, automating tasks, and enabling new approaches to security that are more proactive and resilient. But most importantly, we emphasize that humans are still essential.
Absolutely.
Even in an AI-driven world.
I need those skilled security professionals who can understand AI, leverage its power, and make sure that it's used ethically and responsibly.
So stay tuned, because in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to continue exploring this fascinating topic.
We'll be talking about
and discussing how humans and AI can work together to create a more secure digital future.
Looking forward to it.
So stick with us. Welcome back, everyone. So before the break, we were talking about how AI is going to change cybersecurity and how it's going to impact the roles of humans in cybersecurity.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out.
I know. It's like we're entering this whole new world.
Yeah, it's like a whole new frontier.
So let's talk about how this partnership between humans and AI can actually work in practice. How can we as humans work with these AI systems to become more effective at cybersecurity?
Well, one of the most amazing things about AI is its ability to analyze massive amounts of data and do it incredibly quickly.
Way faster than we could ever do it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it can detect these subtle patterns and anomalies that might indicate a threat.
Like things that we humans might miss.
Yeah, like it could go through all those logs and alerts and basically do the heavy lifting for us.
Exactly. So we don't have to spend hours and hours poring over data. AI can do that for us and then flag anything that looks suspicious.
Oh, okay. So the AI flags the potential problems, and then the humans come in and investigate.
Yeah, exactly. We can use our intuition and our experience and our critical thinking skills to figure out if it's a real threat or just a false alarm.
So AI doesn't replace human security analysts?
No, it makes them more effective.
Okay.
By giving them better information and freeing up their time so they can focus on the most important tasks.
Okay, and is that kind of thing happening already? Are people using AI in this way?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are already AI-powered threat intelligence platforms that aggregate data from all sorts of sources, like dark web forums, malware databases, security researchers.
Yeah.
And they use AI to analyze all that data and identify emerging threats.
So instead of me having to go to all those sources myself and try to figure out what's going on, the AI does all that for me and then tells me what to be worried about.
It gives you these curated insights about potential threats.
Wow, that's incredible.
And it helps security teams be more proactive so they can anticipate attacks before they even happen.
Okay, so we're not just reacting to things after the fact?
No, we're trying to get ahead of the curve.
That's amazing.
And stay one step ahead of the bad guys.
What about fraud prevention?
Oh, yeah. AI is being used a lot in that area, too.
How so?
Financial institutions are using AI to analyze transaction patterns, detect anomalies, and flag any potentially fraudulent activity in real time.
Oh, wow. So they can stop fraud before it even happens.
Yeah, that's the idea.
That's incredible.
So instead of waiting for a fraudulent transaction to go through and then try to trace it back and recover the funds, AI can help you prevent it from happening in the first place.
So it's like a pre-crime division for financial fraud.
You could think of it that way.
That's amazing. It sounds like AI is really changing everything.
It is. And these are just a few examples of how AI is being used in cybersecurity.
Right.
I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
It's both exciting and a little bit daunting.
I know. It's a lot to take in.
It is, because it feels like we need a whole new set of skills and a new way of thinking about security.
Well, Kagan talks about that in his article.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. He says that the future of cybersecurity is going to require a workforce that's not just technically proficient, but also adaptable, creative, and able to think critically about complex problems.
So it's not enough to just know how to configure a firewall or run a vulnerability scan?
No, not anymore.
You need to be able to think on your feet and solve problems.
Exactly. You need to be able to adapt to new challenges.
And you need to be able to explain all this stuff to people who aren't technical.
That's right. Good communication skills are going to be essential.
So you need to be able to talk to the IT people and then turn around and explain it to the executives.
Right. You need to be able to bridge that gap between the technical world and the business world.
So it's like being a cybersecurity diplomat.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And then on top of all that, you need to understand AI.
Oh, yeah. That's crucial.
Like how it works, its limitations, the ethical considerations.
Exactly.
It's a lot.
It is, but it's also a really exciting time to be in this field.
I know, because it feels like we're at the forefront of something really big.
We are, and the people who have these skills are going to be in high demand.
Okay, so for our listeners who are interested in a career in cybersecurity, what are some of the key things they should be focusing on to prepare for this AI-driven future?
Well, first and foremost, they need a solid foundation in computer science and networking.
Okay, that's the basics.
Yeah, but beyond the technical skills, there are a number of other areas that are going to be really important.
Like what?
Well, problem solving and critical thinking skills are at the top of the list.
Okay.
You need to be able to analyze complex situations, identify patterns, and come up with creative solutions.
So you can't just be a robot yourself.
Right. You need to be able to think for yourself.
And adapt to new situations.
Exactly. And you also need strong communication skills.
Okay, why is that so important?
Because you need to be able to explain these technical concepts to people who aren't technical.
Right.
You need to be able to advocate for security initiatives.
Okay.
And build consensus around security policies.
So again, it's like being that cybersecurity diplomat.
Right, exactly.
Okay, and then of course you need to understand AI.
Yes, that's going to be essential.
So it's not just about being able to use the AI tools. It's about understanding how they work.
Right.
And what their limitations are.
Exactly. And the ethical implications of using AI.
So you really need to be able to think critically about AI's role in the security landscape.
Absolutely.
Okay, so before we move on, I want to talk about something that Kagan brought up in his article.
Okay.
he talked about how trust is going to become even more important in an AI-driven world.
He's absolutely right about that.
Because we're relying more and more on AI for our security.
And not just in cybersecurity.
Right, it's everywhere.
Yeah. Self-driving cars, medical diagnosis, financial trading.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
I know it can be, but it's also really exciting.
So how do we build trust in these AI systems?
Well, that's a great question.
Because it's not just about trusting the technology itself.
Right.
We also have to trust the algorithms, the data that it's trained on, and the people who built it.
It's a lot to think about.
It is, and it's a really complex issue.
There's no easy answer.
So how do we even begin to address this?
Well, I think transparency is a good place to start.
What do you mean by transparency?
I mean, we need to be able to understand how these AI systems work.
Okay.
What data are they trained on? What biases might they have?
Right.
We need to be able to audit their decision-making processes.
Okay.
And hold them accountable for their actions.
So we can't just blindly trust the technology?
No, we need to understand it.
Right.
We need to make sure that it's operating in a way that's transparent,
okay,
ethical, and accountable.
And again, this is where humans come in.
Exactly.
We need people who can evaluate these AI systems, identify any potential risks, and make sure they're being used responsibly.
It's all about that partnership between humans and AI.
Exactly.
We work together.
Like Gary Kasparov said, don't fear intelligent machines, work with them.
Yeah, that's a great quote.
And that's a perfect way to sum up this whole conversation.
I think so too.
AI is a powerful tool.
It is.
It can be used for good or evil.
Right.
But ultimately, it's up to us to decide how we're going to use it.
We need to make sure that it's used to benefit society.
Exactly.
And not to harm it.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And talk about how all of this plays out in our everyday lives.
Right.
Because AI isn't just changing the way organizations approach security.
Right.
It's also changing the way we as individuals think about our own digital safety.
That's a really important point.
It is, because we're all living increasingly digital lives.
We are.
I mean, we shop online, bank online.
Connect with friends and family online.
Yeah, manage our health records online.
Everything is online these days.
It's amazing how much of our lives are now intertwined with the digital world.
It is. And that means that our personal data, our finances,
reputations,
everything is more vulnerable than ever before.
So we need to be aware of the risks.
Absolutely.
And take steps to protect ourselves.
But it can be hard to keep up.
It can, because it feels like the bad guys are always one step ahead.
Yeah, it can feel that way.
And they're using AI, too.
Oh, yeah, they're using AI to create these sophisticated scams and attacks.
So how can we as individuals use AI to enhance our own digital security?
That's a great question, and it's one that we'll be exploring in more detail in the next part of our deep dive.
So before the break, we were talking about all the ways that people are starting to use AI to improve cybersecurity.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time to be in this field.
It is, and I think one of the things that really struck me was that idea of how AI is changing cybersecurity for everyone, not just companies and organizations.
Absolutely. I mean, AI is impacting the way we live and work and play.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It's in our phones, it's in our cars, it's in our homes.
So it's not just something that IT people have to worry about anymore.
Right. Cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility these days.
So how can we use AI to make ourselves more secure?
Well, there are actually a lot of AI-powered tools and services that are available to everyday people.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, one of the simplest and most effective is an AI-powered password manager.
Okay, I've heard of those, but how do they work?
So basically, it generates strong, unique passwords for all your online accounts.
Okay.
And then it stores them securely so you don't have to remember them all.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, a lifesaver.
I am so bad at remembering passwords.
I know, me too.
I'm pretty sure I use the same password for, like, everything.
Yeah, that's a really common problem.
And it's a huge security risk.
It is, because if someone gets your password, they can get into all your accounts.
That's scary.
But with a password manager, you only have to remember one master password.
Okay.
And then the password manager takes care of the rest.
So it's like having a digital vault for all your passwords?
Exactly. And it's much more secure than trying to remember them all yourself or writing them down somewhere.
Yeah, I've definitely been guilty of writing passwords down on sticky notes.
I think we all have at some point.
Okay, so besides password managers, what are some other ways that AI can help us stay safe online?
Well, there are AI-powered security tools that can scan your devices for malware.
Okay.
Detect and block phishing attempts, and even monitor your social media accounts for suspicious activity.
Oh, wow. So it's like having a personal bodyguard for your digital life.
Yeah, you can think of it that way.
That's really cool.
And these tools are getting more sophisticated all the time.
So what about privacy? I mean, if we're using all these AI-powered tools that are constantly scanning our data, isn't that kind of creepy?
Well, it's definitely something to be aware of.
Right.
I mean, like any technology, AI can be used in ways that are beneficial or harmful.
Okay.
So it's important to be mindful of the potential privacy implications.
So how do we balance the benefits of AI-powered security with the need to protect our privacy?
Well, I think it starts with being informed.
Okay.
Read the privacy policies of the tools and services you use.
Right.
Understand what data is being collected and how it's being used.
So do your research.
Exactly. And choose reputable providers that prioritize user privacy.
So it's kind of like choosing any other product or service.
Right. You want to make sure you're doing business with a company that you trust.
And you can always opt out of certain features or limit the amount of data you share.
Exactly. It's all about finding a balance that works for you.
And your comfort level.
Exactly.
So I think what we're seeing here is that AI is a really powerful tool.
It is.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
It's up to us to decide how we're going to use it.
We need to make sure that we're using it in a way that benefits society.
And that protects our privacy and our security.
So we need to be smart about how we use AI.
We do. But I think it has the potential to make us all safer and more secure.
I agree with you there. I'm excited to see what the future holds for AI and cybersecurity.
Me too. It's going to be an interesting ride.
So that's our deep dive into cybersecurity and AI.
Hope you enjoyed it.
We covered a lot of ground today.
We did.
From the challenges to the opportunities.
And everything in between.
And we talked about how AI is changing the game for everyone, not just security professionals.
Right. Cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility these days.
So we need to stay informed, stay vigilant, and use the power of AI to create a safer and more secure digital world for ourselves and for everyone.
Well said.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure being here.
Until next time, stay curious.